Hi. I want this one to be a little bit of a thinker, just something for people to reflect on. And it's about the subject of advice. Advice in the context of, I'm not talking about like financial advice or job advice or something like that, which might be in a formal situation. I'm talking about advice that people assume that they can give to others when others haven't asked for it. Um, I've had this happen a few times, including quite recently, and it's pretty frustrating actually, because it's not required. It's really not required. What I find is that sometimes people make, this is particularly the case on social media. People make musings. They, talk about things that are on their mind, particularly on Facebook, which has more of a space to put nuances of things than Twitter does. People will say something that's on their mind, and I'm fairly open, but I'm not as explicit as some people. I don't chronicle every single chapter of every single day online. Most of my posts are not really related to me, they're more about socio-political issues, similar to what I'm making this video. But it does annoy me that some people see a person opening up, oh, excuse me, slurring my words here, opening up their thoughts on something as an invitation to offer advice. So, as an example, I might say, "Oh, I'm annoyed about this," or "I'm unhappy about that," and it would just be how I'm feeling at that time. What I require, or what at least what I would like from a post like that, is either people relating somehow, or maybe just something for people to think about. What I'm not doing is saying, please give me advice on this. I think that with advice, there is a fine line between friendly good intentions and being patronizing. It's a fine line. And sometimes even friends can be patronizing without meaning to be. I guess in the context of friendship, some people think that if they've known someone for a long time, they kind of have a little bit of a right almost to advise. And I'm sympathetic to this positioning to some extent. That is to say, if you know someone, if you know maybe why they're having the problems they're having, and there is a consistency with those problems, then I can sort of understand that a friend would think, well, I'm being a good friend by being blunt about this. In other words, not just cherry coating it, um, sugar coating it, I should say, cherry picking, sugar coating, I should say. So I do understand that. I understand that friends would feel that, good friends would feel, well, there's no point lying to the person. This is a problem they're having. I mean, as an example, if someone has a drinking problem, a good friend is not going to say, "Oh yeah, everything's fine." Don't. Just going to lie to tell them what they want to hear. So I totally understand that logic. However, what I'm talking about is when people who are not close friends, not family members, assume they can give advice, i.e., acquaintances or friends who are people you kind of get on with, but they're not close friends. Um, it's just patronizing. It's true that sometimes on social media people will say things as a call for help. That is true. But sometimes it really is just musings. It's what's on their mind at a given time. I always find it interesting how many people just assume that they can give advice. I've even had it in some of these videos. I'll be talking about a particular subject, then some people have took it on themselves to say, "Oh, you should do this, you should do that," when I really haven't asked for it. And the thing is, it kind of puts you in a position that you You don't want to seem arrogant. You don't want to say, "Oh, I know better than everyone else." So it's not that the advice is necessarily bad advice. It's just that it's unwarranted. I mean, if I need advice, if I need insight into something, I will ask. I will say, look, I need a second opinion on this, and occasionally I do. But people need to stop just assuming that because I honestly think sometimes advice is given not with good intentions, or rather with more selfish intentions to make the other person feel good about themselves, because they get to kind of, especially with relationships. I've had married people tell me about how I should approach relationships because I've said that I don't like being single. And they have assumed that, oh well, just advise the guy. Even when I've said, well, actually, I'm not, it's okay, I'm feeling fine, thanks for your concern. It's not that bad, it's a mild irritation. In fact, a Nigerian acquaintance recently done that. She just took it on herself to give me all this advice, which I didn't ask for. Um, and I try to be not so cynical. I try to think, okay, well, it is well intentioned. They're not trying to be condescending or patronizing, but that's how it comes across. And I told her that. I said, look, I'm sure you mean well, but this is someone, by the way, if anyone's wondering, she's not a close friend. She's an acquaintance. We're in a few mutual groups. We've been connected for a few years, and she just took it on herself to say, oh, this is something that's come up many times. And and it's not actually. But no one likes others imposing advice. Sometimes it's needed, particularly if someone's behavior is hurting other people. So, as that example, if someone has a drinking problem, that's inevitably going to impact other people, especially if they're a bad drunk. If they get aggressive when they're drinking or um, they don't handle it well. In that case, it's the duty of friends actually to intervene and say, look, sort yourself out. So, I'm by no means saying that there isn't a case to be made for blunt advice. There is, at times. But also, more often than not, it shouldn't, I mean, from my point of view, I try very hard not to give advice unless it's asked for. If I have a friend and they're upset about something, I'll say, look, if you don't mind me saying, or from my perspective, or something like that, I won't say you have to do this because it's patronizing. It's not, and I don't think that will help them because they'll just read that as me trying to impose what I think should be the approach. So these are just some things to think about. It's a difficult one because you don't want to come across as too sort of proud or too self-righteous. So there is a time and a place for advice. I think there is, and we could all benefit from learning from others. Of course we can, but it is patronizing when you are just musing. Like you're not being a drama queen and you're just musing on something, and then someone assumes that that's an invitation to just be some sort of therapist when you haven't asked for it. No, actually, that's not what people are looking for. And if you're going to give advice, at least do it in a subtle way. Don't say you have to do this. Just say, look, if you don't mind me saying from my perspective, I think that approach is different. That's more diplomatic. It's more reasonable. So that's just something for people to think about. Thanks for watching.